Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this Wednesday morning and welcome to the Specialist Trading Educational Presentation. Now today I want to talk to you about how I find stocks before they actually take off. There's actually a very simple process that I'm going to teach you today. Now, the reason why most people want to find these stocks before they have their next big move, either with a brand new issue or the next new Tesla that's coming out, is because that's really where you make the most money. If you can get in before it takes off, you'll really be ahead of the game. The only trouble is most stocks don't announce or don't, just scream out that they're going to be going up tremendously within the next couple of days or the next week. Or do they? Because here's the simple process I want to share with you. For example, let's look at this chart here in PLL. This was just roughly a couple of weeks ago. Now, looking at this stock, someone would say, well, Steve, no clear direction. In fact, this is basically going sideways. Why would I be interested in this at all? Perhaps you're waiting for the earnings or some announcement. After all, this is a very inexpensive stock. So why would you even get involved in this? Well, with the process I'm going to be sharing with you today, it actually generated a buy signal about a month ago on the 10th of September, saying that there was a high probability that most likely this stock was going to be not only just headed upwards, but extremely upwards. And as you can see later on in the next 6 days, the stock gained 45 points or 700% in just a little bit over a week. So I know a lot of you are saying, well, how do you do this? What is this some big, technical analysis I have to figure out how to do? Well, actually, there is a simple daily process that you must follow in order to find these golden nuggets. But guess what? We've taken all the hard work out of it for you because the simple process is easily done and applied on our new PTS Primo charting platform. This is the educational platform that auto-identifies these big moves in advance. So welcome to this presentation. This is an educational webinar. My name is Steven Primo. I'm the president and founder of Specialist Trading. A little over a decade ago, I teamed up with Pro Trader Strategies with one goal in mind, and that was simply to educate traders. So first and foremost, we are strictly an educational company. If you've come here today thinking that I'm going to tell you what the market's going to do next week, or what I think is going to be happening with interest rates, or some economic news, or what I think is going to be the best new stock to buy, you've come to the wrong place, because that's not what we do. As an educator, our job is to educate you how to trade, not to trade for you. You see, most traders love to go to a blog or some chat room or some website to find out what to buy or what to sell. Or you wait for the earnings, or you wait to see what some guy says on TV. That's the way most of us, myself included in the past, that's the way we're taught to make our trading decisions. But if that really worked, then why has been estimated that roughly 80 to 85% of all traders fail? It's because that really doesn't work. You should never really simply be blindly following what someone else says or does. You have to make your own trading decisions. The good news is that's the gap we fill. That's the service we provide. With our education that has stood the test of time, that really has highly consistency in its applications, you'll see that you're able to have confidence in pulling your own trigger and making their own trading decisions, where before you couldn't have the confidence to do that. So that's really what we do at Specialist Trading and Pro Trader Strategies. We teach traders how to trade. You'll see in today's process how simple that is to apply by using our platform. But before we begin, as always, we're required first by law to share this with you. So please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results today going through this simple process, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. And also please remember that all examples are strictly for educational purposes only. Now, if you haven't done so already, I'd like to take this time to invite each and every one of you to follow us on Twitter. There's our handle right there. You may want to copy that down. Interesting story. Every day I post different educational information on Twitter, anywhere from signals our strategies have generated to little bits of financial wisdom I've accumulated along the way. And as I said earlier, so many people are pretty much just wired to think that someone's supposed to tell you how to buy or sell or what to buy and sell. For example, interesting story on Twitter today. Someone commented on one of the signals our strategies had generated, and they said, well, listen, why didn't you tell us about this 3 days ago? It doesn't do any good to tell me now, because now the stock has already taken off or fallen out of bed, regardless of what the signal was. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. Most people come to a Twitter page or to any type of presentation or to a website thinking that you're supposed to tell me this stuff before it happens. That's why most traders fail. We've all been, brainwashed into thinking that that's the only way we'll be successful. You have to make your own trading decisions, and the only way you can do that is through sound fundamental education. So as you can see here, my goal is not to force feed you signals. My goal is not to have you come to my Twitter page to find out what to buy or what to sell. My goal is to provide you with this information so that ultimately you can make those decisions on your own. Okay, a good mentor does not trade for you. He teaches you how to trade. Okay, if you wanted to learn any skill, any hobby, anything you wanted to learn, if you hired a coach or got someone to teach you, you wouldn't have them do it for you, right? They would teach you and show you how to actually apply the process, and then you would apply it on your own. This is the same thing we do. Just because we have a Twitter page that shows a lot of ways to trade and winning setups and ways in which our application and education work, doesn't mean we're going to announce to you what to buy or what to sell. That would be doing you a disservice. You have to find your own way. That, in my 43 years of trading, is the only way I found traders that are consistent. They make their own trading decisions. So my goal is to make you a consistent trader, not for just a couple of years, maybe even just a couple of months, but for maybe a couple of decades, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades, so that you can be in charge of your own trading destiny. Okay? That is the specialist edge. Now, before we begin, just want to say, since this is a classroom, I want you to ask me as many questions as possible, but please wait till the end of today's class. I promise I'll get to each and every one of them, but I have a lot of slides, so I don't want to stop at every slide to answer a question. The only other thing I want to mention is that the only question I will answer is the most common, and that is this being recorded? Yes, it is. So if you have to leave early, if you're having technical issues, each and every one of you will be sent a link to this recording. Now, as I stated at the beginning of the presentation, there is a simple process to follow, and it centers around, I would venture to say, our most popular tool to date, because we introduced this just within the last year, so it's relatively a new tool, but it has just caught fire, and that's why we are presenting this presentation today, so that you can become aware of it and to decide for yourself if you want to be a student in this course. This is our most popular tool, so the way in which I find stocks that are just about to take off centers around the PTS-XT Extreme Trend Indicator. This is something I've talked about in the past. There are many different ways in which to apply it. I'm going to share with you what the simplest process is today. But for those of you who really aren't familiar with this tool, let me just share with you some of the basics, some of the highlights. It's a proprietary indicator designed to announce in advance when a strong trend is just about to begin. All right, so this indicator is so sensitive, it really is able to see if the market is telling us if it wants to go and shoot upwards or shoot downwards. That's the beauty of this tool. That's why it's called the Extreme Trend Indicator. And the beauty of this also is that it's one click away on our platform. There's nothing you have to calculate. There's nothing you have to put together in some type of formula to figure out if it's generating a buy or a sell trend. It's simply just one click away on the PTS Primo charts, okay? It auto-identifies these big moves in advance. All right, so let's begin today's process. Now you know what this is centered around. Let me go through the process with you and show you how simple it is. This is a simple 4-step process. This is something you can be doing every day to find out what these next big moves are going to be. All right, we'll take it step by step to make it really simple for you. Now, it'll probably take us a good 5 minutes to go through this process. Once you become a student of the PTS-XT tool and you can start using this, it'll probably take you no longer than a minute to actually go through this on a daily basis. All right, step 1. You want to open up the new PTS Primo charting platform. Obviously, you need to be on the platform to be able to do this. But once you open up the platform, you'll see this screen right here. And this leads us to step number 2, apply the PTS-XT scanner feature. All right, so where do I find this? I know I've gone to platforms before where they say, oh, just apply this scanner or just apply this tool. And I'm sitting there for an hour trying to figure out, well, how do I find this? I don't even know where this is. This is how simple it is on our platform. As you can see here in the upper green strategy tab, you see the PTS-XT Extreme Trend. All right, this is the strategy tab. Just click this on. In the drop-down menu, click on Scanner, and you'll see this page appear, okay? The PTS-XT Extreme Trend Scanner. All right, this leads us to step number 3. Choose the market you want to scan, because we know not everyone just trades stocks. The beauty of the PTS-XT is that you can apply it virtually to any market, any time frame. So we have a list of databases here on our load symbols tab right here, where you can choose from Bitcoin, you can choose from futures, different exchanges such as the Asian markets, such as the European markets. You can choose the Canadian markets if you want, the S&P, the NASDAQ. You can even choose currency pairs. It makes no difference. When we provide all of these for you. So you click on load symbols and you'll see a list. Let's say you decided to choose the NASDAQ 100, okay? In a matter of seconds, you'll see the database for the NASDAQ 100 appear. And it's highlighted right here, so you know exactly what you're looking at. And lastly, we go to step number 4 now. We click on Scan, okay? All right, so you see a series of green and red bars here on the right. So the green bars mean that there are uptrend signals. The red bars mean they're extreme down signals. Now, what you want to do is trade the signals with a bar count of 1. So what does that mean? As we see here in this right corner here, these have different bar counts, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, what that means is how long the signal has been triggered. Has it been triggered for the last 4 bars, 4 days? Has it been triggered for the last 2 or 1 day? All right, what we want to look for is the ones that have been triggered just 1 day, because these hold the highest probability. In other words, if the stock is about to take off, you obviously want to get in on that first day, right? So as we look at a chart here in ASGN, this is an older chart, we see here that this is what it'll look like. You'll get a yellow block around that signal bar. This is the PTSXT bar 1 extreme uptrend signal, all right? Now, once again, this is just one of the many ways to get into these trades here, buying on the first bar or bar number 1. As you can see, the stock took off and made up 12 points in just the next week or so. That's how simple it is, all right? Let's look at another example here. This was in Amazon. Now, obviously, if we backtrack and look at ASGN, a less expensive stock. But if we go forward once again and look at Amazon, a more expensive stock, the same process applies. We have our yellow block around the first bar, 475 points in roughly about a month. Now, this can work to the downside as well. In NCLH, we had a reddish-orange block around here. This is the first day that you had the signal generated. Quick 45 points to the downside. We can apply this to other markets. Here's a 4-hour chart of the Australian dollar, okay? The first bar here is outlined in the yellow block. 200 pips in roughly about a week, all right? That's $2,000 roughly that you could have made per unit. And look what happened once it left the block. That's where you want to avoid trading. Here's another example. Here's a 10-minute chart of the EMini Futures, okay? We had a reddish-orange block around this 10-minute bar here. You could have sold on the close of this bar a quick 25 points. That's over $1,200 per contract. And once it left the reddish-orange block, you avoid trading, because that's where you're going to get into these whipsaw kind of back and forth movements. Remember, we only want to trade in that really low-hanging fruit area, that extreme trend area, because that's where it's the easiest to generate consistency, when you're really in sync with the extreme trend. Now, that's on a 10-minute chart of the EMini Futures. Let's go back and look at Bitcoin, all right? The same process applied. The first bar count of the yellow block was a buy signal on bar number 1. Look how Bitcoin took off right after that. Oftentimes, you'll see these series of blocks here. Here's an older chart in Apple. Look at this sell block, and then another sell block. Then the trend changes, a buy block, then another buy block. But remember, we want to share with you that this is consistent. It doesn't mean that every setup is going to be a winner. For example, you see here that after this large sell block, another sell block was generated right here, and then nothing happened. It went back up. So this is what we mean by consistency. There will be some losses from time to time. That's okay. Don't you think you could have made back this small loss with a large gain right here or right here? This is what you want in a trading method. You're going to be having losses from time to time. That's perfectly okay. What you want is a method that's able to recoup those losses and hopefully make some more. Here's another example, a 1-hour chart of the British pound Canadian dollar. Okay, we just came out of a buy setup. Nothing happened here for 4 bars. Now we have our first red colored block bar. Sell that, and you see how you could have had a nice move to the downside. That's a 1-hour chart of the British pound Canadian dollar. Here's a 2-hour chart of Bitcoin. All right, you see the sell block right here. Then you avoid trading on the sideways market when there's no color behind it. Then we go into another sell block again. Avoid trading again. And then look, we go into a buy block. So for all intents and purposes, we have a lot of students that all they do is trade when a block appears on that very first bar. And that's all they do. Once the back of the screen is neutral or white or whatever color you decide to have on our platform, because you can adjust the colors, that's when you stay out of the market. Do you see how you automatically are increasing your odds for a success because you're only trading in those extreme trends and you're out of the market when an extreme trend is not taking place? All right, so we shared with you exactly what the process is. We showed you some past winners just to show you how it looks like. Let's look at some recent winners, okay? Let's look at some recent examples of how you could have applied this process using the PTS XT tool on stocks. And then we'll go later on and look at some different markets and different time frames. Remember, if you have any questions, we see we have a large crowd here today. If you joined us later, remember, ask questions at the end. I'll look at questions at the very end so we don't have to stop for all of these setups. Okay, here's a chart in BPMC, okay, Blueprint Medicines, all right? Someone looking at this would say, well, Steve, I'm only looking at 4 bars here. How in the world can I tell what this is going to do? For all I know, it's going to go straight down, maybe straight up. I have no idea. That's the beauty of this tool. This is how sensitive it is. All you have to do is click on the PTS Extreme Trend on our platform. In the drop-down menu, you click on Scanner. It would have scanned that on the close of this bar, there was a PTS Extreme Up signal. Why? Because there's a yellow block around it. So you could have bought on the close or placed a limit. There are a number of ways we teach you how to enter in our course, but let's just say we chose to buy in the close of the day. Look what happened. 15 points coming into the first week in October, okay? Here's another example in Win. Looks like the stock is doing basically nothing, right? Kind of just going sideways, and you say to yourself, well, there's really nothing happened. In fact, the next day it went down a little, but you know, I took that course in divergences and it wasn't confirmed. So I'm not going to sell this because, you know, the divergence said that this is actually going to go higher, all right? You see how I'm making my decisions based off of what someone or something is telling me? Why don't we let the market tell us? Remember, the PTS XT translates what the market wants to do. And it basically said it wants to go lower. But it not only wants to go lower, there's a strong chance that it wants to go extremely lower or very fast. So you could have sold on the close here and win. This was in the middle of September, just about 3 weeks ago. A quick 10 points to the downside that potentially you could have captured. Here's another example, DPZ, all right? This is Domino's Pizza. It's in an uptrend, right? But you said to yourself, well, you know, this looks like a doji here. It's kind of gone up a little bit too quickly. I think it's overbought. I don't really want to do anything in this. It's too high now. But the PTS Extreme tool indicated that it wants to go higher, all right? So you could have bought on the close for a quick 22 points coming into the first week in October, last week. Here's another example of VLO, kind of slowly heading lower, but let's say you say to yourself, well, maybe there's some, buy support right here. After all, that chat room I go to says that the institutions like this stock, and so they want to purchase it around here. So why would I want to do anything other than buy it? Well, because you're not basing your decision off what the market's telling you. You're basing your decision off what the institutions or what the earnings estimates are supposed to be. I used those things 43 years ago, as I often state. They didn't help me then, so there's no reason they're about to be consistent and help you now. Remember, 4 decades ago, these were the same things I was being taught, and they couldn't help me then. Why not just listen to what the market wants to do? And if we apply the PTS XT Extreme Trending tool, it's telling us it wants to go lower. It's got a reddish orange block around it. If you would have sold, that was a quick 13 points coming into last week. How about DKNG? This is DraftKings. Now, I know the stock, I think, lately has been going lower, but look at this. This was in mid-September. A buy signal was generated right here. You potentially could have captured 22 points. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, well, Steve, that would mean that I would have to get out exactly at the top. How do I know where to get out? Well, we teach you different exit points, but potentially you could have captured 22 points using any one of our different methods if you chose to do so. Let's say you didn't get out at 22 points. Let's say you only were able to capture maybe half of that. Well, 11 points is still not a bad little profit in a couple of weeks, right? Here's another example here in DAO. An extreme downtrend signal was generated here in August, coming into September. As you can see, potentially you could have quickly captured 13 points of the downside. And then once we got out of the reddish orange block, that's where you avoid trading, because that's where you go into the sideways action. Here's another example in PSA, okay? Just with 3 bars, that's all you need to know. If we have a yellowish block around a bar, that's telling you that the market wants to go higher. It's an extreme up signal. You could have purchased on the close of that day, potentially captured 20 points, and then avoided trading as it went into a kind of a sideways mode. Another example in CVX now. This was at the end of August coming into September. We had a reddish-orange block around this particular day telling you that, well, if you're long this, you may want to at least move your stop up to protect yourself. Or maybe if you were thinking about going long, maybe you want to hold off for a bit because the market, not some guy in a chat room or not some guy on TV or not some earning estimate, but the market is telling you it wants to go lower, extremely lower. And look what happened. Quick 15 points you could have captured to the downside coming into October. Now, here's a perfect example of how most traders trade. They say, gosh, looking back in hindsight, how did I know that this was going to go straight up, letter Z, okay, going back about 3 months? Well, what if I could have told you that you could have gone long right here during this real strong uptrend, stayed out, avoided trading right here during this kind of sideways action, and then gotten back in right here for this strong upward trend? I'm sure you would have said, how would you have known that? I mean, no one would have known that in hindsight. Well, actually, maybe you would have, because if you had applied the PTSXT Extreme Trend Tool, it actually generated a buy block right here. You could have taken advantage of this nice upward move, potentially captured 28 points, gotten out, stayed out of this, avoided trading, and then gotten back in right here to take advantage of this 22-point move to the upside. Remember, this is all done without any fundamental news requirement. It's basing it off of its sensitivity, off of this indicator. It's extremely sensitive, but it's able to capture these really strong extreme trends, either to the upside or to the downside. Now, remember, this is just one way to trade it, basing it off the first bar. That's where you have the highest potential for having any type of profits. But remember, if you miss that, there's still other ways to get in, which we teach you in the course. Here's an example of EXAS. This was in August coming into mid-September. You could have taken advantage, potentially captured 18 quick points, and then out here as it went sideways. Here's an example in WDAY, okay? A quick 57 points in less than a couple of weeks, and then you would have been able to avoid trading, all right? Now, I'm sure some of you say, well, Steve, yes, I would have had to get in right here and then get out right here. Sure, that's what you potentially could have captured if you got in at the bottom and out at the top. Let's say you didn't. Let's say you got only half of that. That's still close to 30 points in a couple of weeks, okay? So if you'd only been able to capture 50% of that move, you're still capturing close to 30 points in less than a couple of weeks. Another example here. Potentially you could have captured 22 points coming into mid-September and then avoided all of this sideways action. That was an ALNY. All right, let's look at the chart we originally talked about at the opening of the presentation. This was in PLL, that's in Piedmont Lithium, okay? Once again, if you're trading the way we've all been taught, okay, well, we're looking for earnings, or we're looking for an announcement, or we're looking for some economic news, you would not have even paid any attention to this stock, because basically there's no direction. Why? Because we're basing our decisions off of old, worn out, outdated traditional wisdom that tells us to listen to what some economic report is going to be, or listen to what someone's telling you on TV or in a chat room. That doesn't work. There's no consistency in that. Take it from someone who's been there. The best way to determine what the market wants to do is simply to listen to the source. That's the market you're trading. Now, most people aren't taught how to listen to that. I wasn't. It wasn't until my mentor said, listen, Steve, there are a number of tools and different ways to listen to the market. We just have to get rid of this noise that we've been accustomed to listening to and just learn how to listen by a few simple tools. That tells you what the market wants to do. Now, this simple tool, actually, if we use our scanner, would have generated an extreme up signal right here on the 10th of September, about a month ago. And for the next 4 days, nothing really happened. But all of these 4 days were still surrounded with a yellow block. On the 5th day, we went up a little bit, and on the 6th day, that's where it took off, okay? PLL gained 45 points, or over 700% in just 6 days. Someone say, well, how did you know that? You don't follow fundamental news. Obviously, there was some announcement in this. How did you know? It's because the market we're trading was telling us, all right? So that's the beauty of this highly sensitive tool. Oftentimes, it tells you in advance of any news announcement. How about if we had taken advantage in August of this real strong uptrend in Lulu, and then gotten out and avoided this, and then gotten back into the short side to take advantage of this extreme down move? Well, it would have been simple. Applying the PTSXT, we could have gotten into Lulu right here, potentially captured 70 points, gotten out, and then potentially captured 35 points to the downside. Now, that's over 100 points potentially you could have captured. I know someone, once again, you're probably saying, well, yeah, I would have had to get in at the very beginning and get out at the very top. Okay, so let's say you only captured half of that. That's still 50 points. Let's say you only captured a third of that. That's still 30 points. All right, what if someone told you, how would you like to capture 30 points in a month? I think you would have said, sure, I'd love to. So that's what we mean. Sure, you're not going to get in at the very bottom and get out at the very top every time, but this is giving you a potential to capture a large amount. Here's an example in Facebook, okay? Coming into August here, we had one bar outlined yellow, 50 points in the next month, okay? Then you could have avoided, once you're out, you want to avoid this area because that's where you get into this whipsaw back and forth. CACC. The stock was going basically sideways and all of a sudden had a very strong downward move in 1 day. This is where most traders, myself included, I was first taught, wow, you know, you want to buy low, sell high. This is extreme down move. That's where you want to buy it, right? This is so oversold that it's got to bounce. This is the way I used to trade, and that's why I suffered my first year of trading, because I was doing the exact opposite of what the market was telling me. The market was telling me basically that the stock wanted to go lower, all right? And as you can see, 100 points lower in the next couple of weeks. Sure, if I didn't capture the full 100 points, maybe I captured only half of it, maybe a third of it. Still, that's a large amount you could have captured in a couple of weeks. Here's an example in Zoom, okay? Looking at this, someone would say, well, there's not really much to know about Zoom here. This was in August, not really anything. I could have told you what was going to happen. But if you applied the PTSXT, the scanner, just click on the scanner. There's the process we talked about. There's the first day of the extreme up signal. That holds the highest probability for success if it were going to really take off. Now, looking back in hindsight, don't you think you would have liked to have bought Zoom about 250 points lower? Now, you could have exited anywhere you wanted to. Sure, you could have exited maybe with a 5 or 10 point gain. It's up to you. But we have upwards of 6 or 7 different ways to exit in our course, 6 or 7 different ways to enter, and 6 or 7 different stop placements. Lots of different ways to trade this. I'm just sharing with you the most basic, highly probable way to trade the PTSXT tool. All right, so let's look at some other directions, other time frames, because we know not everyone trades the same market, not everyone trades the same time frame, okay? So let's look at the Euro New Zealand currency pair. This is a 4-hour chart, and this just was happening yesterday, all right? To show you that, you know, we just didn't cherry pick a lot of examples that happened months ago. Look at what happened yesterday. As you can see here on this 4-hour chart, stock was basically doing nothing until we have a yellow block around this 4-hour bar, all right? That was your signal that most likely there's going to be a strong uptrend in the currency pair. If you elected to do so, remember, it's your choice. This is not a system where everyone has to buy at the same place, everyone has to get in at the same time. That, remember, is a recipe for disaster. No two traders should ever trade alike. We're just teaching you high probability areas. You're in charge of how you enter. But had you decided to enter at the close of that bar, well, that was 120 pips you could have taken advantage of in the next day, okay, coming into today. That's over $1,000 per unit had you stayed in there. Let's say you only wanted to take half of that potential profit. Okay, that's 60 pips, all right, $600 in about a day. Not a bad little trade, right? How about this? Remember when the market fell out of bed yesterday, some economic news or some news announcement? Remember, I don't follow news. I stopped looking at news 40 years ago. So it really doesn't matter to me. But there was news that came out that caused the market to fall out of bed. Prior to that, the market was having a nice upward day here. In fact, had you taken this signal on a 1-minute chart, if you're an intraday trader trading the EMini Futures, that's a nice 10 points potentially you could have captured in roughly about 15, 20 minutes, okay? Say you captured half of that. That's only 5 points. All right, then look what happened. All of a sudden, the market left the buy zone, the buy block, started to head lower, and then on this 1-minute bar, we had an extreme downward signal, all right? So you could have elected here, this was at 11:50 Pacific Standard Time, to go short. At that time, you know, no one knew what was going on. The market started to head south, but I always tell my students, you know, why do you need to know what's going on? I mean, what's the purpose behind that? I often say the same thing my mentors taught me. They said, Steve, why would you need to know what the news is, what's behind what a move is happening? That's like, imagine you're walking down the street and all of a sudden a cloudburst happens and it starts to pour and rain and you're getting soaking wet. At that point, when you're in the middle walking down the sidewalk, are you going to say, wow, I wonder what caused this rain? I want to know what the front was that moved in from the north causing the rain to happen, and why is it happening to rain now, and how long is it going to rain? You're not going to ask yourself those questions. What you're going to ask yourself is, I got to get out. I have to react. I have to, you know, decide, am I going to buy an umbrella? I'm going to run to my car. I'm going to go inside some shop because I want to get out of the rain. It's the same way with trading. Who cares what the reasons are? I could care less why the market goes up or goes down. All you want to know is, what is the market doing, and then just jump on board. So the market was telling us at this point at 11:50 yesterday Pacific time, it wanted to go lower. So you could have sold on that reddish orange block and potentially captured 40 points in the next roughly 15 minutes. Now, if you don't trade the E-mini contracts, one contract, 40 points, roughly would have been $2,000. You could have captured in the next roughly 15 to 20 minutes, okay? Let's say you only captured half of that, okay, 20 points. That's $1,000 still. That's only if you're trading one contract. Some of my students trade 10, some trade 20, all right? And then obviously, once you left the reddish-orange block, that's where you avoid trading. That's where you stay out of the market. You see how simple this is? This just happened yesterday on an intraday chart of the E-mini Futures. This could have easily been if you're intraday trading Apple, intraday trading Microsoft. Makes no difference. Now, here's another example in commodities. Here's a weekly chart of soybeans, all right? Just to show you that this can be applied to any market, any time frame. This was in the middle of August. A yellow block was generated around this weekly bar in soybeans. And even if you don't know anything about soybeans, even if you don't trade, the market is telling you there's a high probability there's going to be an extreme upward move. And so you may want to take advantage of that. Had you bought that, well, it's a nice 140 points coming into this week in October, all right? So this is a perfect example that this can be applied to any market, any time frame, and there's no reason, if you don't need to focus on these outside sources such as fundamental news, such as institutions, such as volumes, such as guys in chat rooms. Trust me, I did all of that for you 43 years ago, and I'm here to tell you it doesn't work. So why waste your time and money focusing on those things? Okay, let's recap before we go into the question and answer portion. Remember, what is the PTSXT? It's a proprietary indicator, extremely sensitive. It's designed to announce in advance when a strong trend is just about to begin. Now remember, does this work 100% of the time? Absolutely not. Does anything work 100% of the time? No. I've been trading long enough to know that there's nothing that does. So if you ever go to a webinar and someone says this has never failed, you know, I would run or turn off your computer, because there's nothing that has never failed. What you want is something that's aware that they will have losses from time to time, but that's able to recoup those losses. That is a consistent method, and consistency is what will sustain you, not some fly-by-night method that proclaims to never lose or to has 2,000% winners. It's just silly. So this is a highly probability tool that announces in advance when a strong trend is just about to begin. Now, let's talk about some of the advantages of trading with the PTS Extreme Trend. Remember, it identifies these high probability zones. You can see through this 4-step scanning process where the first day is where you either have a yellow block or a reddish orange block around the bar, okay? Whatever market, whatever time frame you're scanning for. Now, once you know this, it'll identify these zones that not only that you want to trade in, but also that it'll keep you out of these choppy whipsaw markets, tell you the areas in which to avoid. Think of it. If you know when to trade in the high probability areas and when not to trade, you've automatically increased your odds for consistency tremendously. Because consistency is not about trading at the right time. It's also about knowing when not to trade. Now, it also pinpoints these low-hanging fruit trade areas. When we say trade areas, we mean that you can apply any method, any technique once you have a yellow block or a reddish-orange block. You can apply your trading method to this. You'll have a higher level of consistency. You can apply someone else's strategy, or you can use one of the many different techniques we teach in the course to trade within these different blocks. Now, it also provides multiple trading opportunities. Like I just said, we provide you with these in our course. We have different ways to apply your stop. We have different ways to enter. We also have different exit points as well. Another great way to apply the PTSXT tool is with market sectors. Let's say you apply this to a market sector, an ETF, that reflects a certain market sector, like say the technology sector. If that ETF is in a yellow block, well, then you know that most of the stocks that make up that sector are most likely going to be going up. So you don't have to actually trade the ETF that identifies the sector. You can trade the stocks within the sector, okay? Another great way to apply this tool. But lastly, and I think most importantly, it eliminates trading traffic jams and congestions. If there's one thing I've learned from my students after teaching for the last 20 years, it's that they always say, Steve, I always get in, and the minute I get in, all of a sudden I'm in this congestion, this traffic jam. Like the stock was taking off, and all of a sudden it just stops doing anything the minute I buy it, or the minute I sell it, stops going down, and then I go into this choppy area, right? That's really what happens most likely to many of you, because we really get in a day late and a dollar short. You see, waiting for this is like waiting in line at the ATM machine, okay? You're basically, someone else is at the top of the line, and you're waiting at the bottom, waiting for your chance to take advantage of these high probability areas, and most of the time you miss them, right? But with the PTSXT, it's like you move to the front of the line. You're in the express lane, and you're in the stock or the currency pair before anyone else is, before the big move has even happened. And you're able there to achieve that consistency that you've been waiting for. So why wait any longer for success? You owe it to yourself to become a consistent trader. Take advantage of this great offer that we're going to have for you, and we're going to have you a great discount as well. All right, we're going to offer you our Express Lane discount. This is the PTSXT Extreme Trend course. This generates these high probability zones and these color blocks. You can apply to any market, you can apply to any time frame, and you can trade with your current strategy. We have a number of students who say, you know, Steve, I have a strategy, but it only works okay. And once they become a student of ours in the PTSXT class, they see that all of a sudden they have this extremely, advanced amount of consistency, because now they're only trading in these high probability zones, okay? So it's going to give you the confidence to pull the trigger. It's also great for market timing. Now remember, all the examples I shared with you today were generated and displayed on the PTS Primo charting platform. This is the educational platform that identifies these extreme trends in advance. Everything is one click away. So here's what we're going to do. Along with the great discount of our course, we're also going to throw in a full year free of the PTS Primo charting platform. Think of it. This is over 4 decades of information, of techniques, tools, and strategies that I've accumulated right there. They're one click away. It's like having your own personal mentor right there sitting next to you on the PTS Primo charting platform. Now, obviously, you're going to get the PTSXT indicator, but you're also going to get some tremendous other techniques and great edges to apply to your own personal trading, like Enhanced Buy Sell Line, which shares with you what the overall trend is. Also, our Strength of Trend tool. I tweeted about a stock where this generated a signal that it was running out of steam. This is a great tool I developed with Pro Trader Strategies that will tell you if many times if a stock or a currency pair or future is just about to run out of gas, or it has more momentum left in the move. All right. We talked about the scanner. You're also going to get the PTSXT tracker tool. This is another way. I gave a webinar about a month ago using the tracker tool with the PTSXT. It's another way to enter into these trades for the more conservative traders. Auto-generated exit levels. Remember, we give you and teach you upwards of 7 different ways to exit This is one of them that's automatically generated on the platform. And then this all comes with personalized tech support as well. Now, remember we talked about the signal scanner. Let's say I had given this presentation a couple of weeks ago, and you said, boy, this is great. I'm going to become a student of Steve's using the PTSXT. And let's say you've been a student of mine, you learned how to use the scanner, you've properly identified, you know how to trade with it, you've paper traded for a while. Well, you would have been able to scan last week for EIDX. Here's the chart right here. Looks like nothing much is happening, right? But using our scanner, you would have seen that a yellow block was displayed around the stock on the 29th of September. All right, so what was this telling you? It's telling you, not me, it's not Steve saying you got to buy this. It's not some guy in a chat room. It's not some institution saying, well, the buyers are right here. All the banks want to buy this. It's not some guy on TV. It's not the earnings estimates. It's the market. It's the stock telling you it wants to go higher. All right. This is the source of what you're trading. You have to learn how to listen to the market because that's where everything comes from. That's what you're trading after all, right? So why would you listen to anything else? Unfortunately, we're taught that that's what we're supposed to do, listen to other things, and the market should be the last thing we listen to. But the market was screaming that it wanted to go higher on the 29th. Had you elected to do so, you could have purchased EIDX, and as you can see, the stock in 4 days gained 25 points. Now on the 5th, which was just this week, obviously some news came out and the stock gapped up tremendously. Since we don't follow fundamental news, someone would say, well, how did you know this? Because the stock tells you what it wants to do. There's no reason, in my opinion, and it's not required to follow any fundamental news. If you want to, that's fine. We're not here to tell you how not to trade. We're just saying there's absolutely no reason to. Remember, just like that person walking in the rain, after the move has happened, you don't want to ask yourself, well, why is this happening? Was there good earnings? Well, it doesn't matter. Why not just take advantage of what it's telling you? Okay? The market was telling us a full 4 days in advance it wanted to go higher. You could have taken advantage of this using the PTSXT, and you could have scanned for it on the 29th. All right, so this is a great, great tool. I use this every day for my own trading. Here's what we want to do. We want to teach you how to trade in the express lane. Here's the offer we have. Now, normally the PTSXT Extreme Trend special price is $49.95. We're going to drop that by $500. We're going to discount it down to $44.95. You're going to save $500. We're also throwing in a full year of the platform, but on top of that, we're also throwing in payment plans. So if you can't come up with a $44.95, you can still be up and running as soon as today, if you like. For a small deposit, you can still be a student of mine, and you can have and set forth monthly payment plans with Pro Trader Strategy. So this is a great way to get your trading in gear, finish 2020 strong. So we're going to discount the price by $500, and if it's still too much for you to come up with, for a small deposit, you can still be up and running as early as today. You can get the full year of the platform. You can get the platform installed by our tech support team on your platform today. You can start learning how to apply the PTSXT tool as early as this afternoon. Here's how to take advantage of this. Contact Pro Trader Strategies, my sister site. They helped develop the platform with me. They're in charge of all the discounts and the payment plans. I would strongly suggest giving them a call at 310-598-6677 right here. There's absolutely no obligation. They have trading consultants manning the phones right now. They would be more than happy to set up a payment plan with you or to take your order over the phone. But either way, there's absolutely no obligation. They're there to help you and to answer any questions concerning pricing or discounts with you or concerning tech support with the platform. So give them a call if you're interested in terms of pricing. They'll be there to answer any question with absolutely no obligation, okay? Now, I'm going to leave all this information up here on the screen. This link you see at the very bottom is the link that will take you to the sign-up page if you want to sign up online. If you don't want to sign up online, if you see on the far right-hand corner, there's a live link posted in the chat box, though. You can simply use that and use that for an information page and then call up Pro Trader Strategies, which I highly recommend, okay? Now, as I promised, I would leave the last portion of today's presentation for questions. So if you happen to have any, go to your question and answer box, open it up and type them in, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. A lot of students are saying hello. Hello, Dan. How are you doing? Someone is saying, what is the time frame for these trades? Well, in the beginning of the presentation, most of the time frames we used were daily time frames because we would say that the majority of our students and members around the world use daily bars. But towards the end, remember, I went into 4-hour charts of the currency pairs, a 1-minute chart of the EMini Futures, and then a weekly chart of commodities. So as you can see, it can be applied to any market and any time frame. It makes absolutely no difference, okay? Next question, how do you know to stay in for 70 points? If we use options for leverage, we know the time frame for the move. That's a good question. Remember, no one knows exactly. This is not a predictive tool. It doesn't say it's going to go up 50 points and then get out. But we have a number of ways in which to exit, which we teach you in the courses. Like I said, there's upwards of 7 different exit points. And on our platform, we actually have displayed different exit levels that are automatically displayed on just one click away. So you can choose whichever ones you'd like. Remember, our job as an educator, just as, for example, imagine you wanted to learn how to swim. Our job as a swimming coach would be to teach you all the different strokes, the backstroke, how to swim underwater, the breaststroke. Then you're able to decide for yourself which one you want to apply. It's the same way with teaching you how to trade. Our job is to provide you with all these different entry, exit, and stop placement points, then work with you so that you can ultimately decide which one works best for the style in which you trade. Some traders like to trade with options. That's great. One exit plan may work better for you than another. Some traders like to trade only currency pairs or intraday futures. Great. Another exit plan or another stop placement may work well for you. It all depends on what you trade and how you trade. Now, having said that, this is not a course in options or in futures trading. So in other words, we always have a lot of questions in our courses where students say, well, Steve, I trade options. Which strike price should I go for? Or which spread should I trade? Remember, that's up to you. You have to make your decisions. This is not an option trading course. Our job as educators is simply to educate you and provide you with these high probability areas that most likely are going to have some big moves in the market. How you want to enter, whether it's through options, whether it's through purchasing stocks, whether it's through buying the futures, is entirely up to you, okay? This is not an options or a futures course. This is simply a trading course, all right? Bob's asking, do you offer any kind of money-back guarantee? No, we don't, Bob. That's more of a pro trader strategies question since they're in charge of all the discounts and pricing, because we give you, in the course, we give you all the information. And a while back when we first started this, about 12 or 13 years ago, we had a number of students who would take the courses, learn all the information, and then say, I want my money back, and then sell the course or teach all their friends exactly what the rules were. So what we've done, I believe, is now Pro Trader Strategies now, if you're not happy with it, we'll provide you with another course. But that's something to ask them because they're in charge of all the discounts and the pricing. But once again, I would give them a call if you're concerned about money-back guarantees or about pricing or about discounts. They would be more than happy to answer any question that you may have. No obligation about purchasing anything, okay? They're there to work with you, and they're there to help you with any questions concerning pricing or discounts or money-back guarantees, all right? Good questions. Or anything concerning trading is right up my alley. So we have another question here. Someone was asking, can this be applied to other time frames? I guess you must have asked this before the end of the presentation. Yes. Remember, I just shared with you a great setup for a 1-minute chart yesterday on the EMini Futures. When the market fell out of bed at the end of yesterday and yesterday afternoon, you could have taken advantage of that on a 1-minute chart. So it makes no difference what time frame, what direction, or which market you're trading. The PTS-XT can be applied to any of them, okay? And so that's why I share with you all those different examples. Okay, as we get ready to close here, I just want to say thank you so much for attending. Thanks for taking time out of your Wednesday. Remember, we are at the end of 2020. We only have a couple of months left, all right? Most likely, and it's not, in any way a put down or anything, because this is probably the majority of all traders, but most likely you're nowhere near where you wanted your trading to be at the beginning of the year. And that's okay. That's roughly the same scenario with most traders, the majority of traders. I'm here to help you take your trading to the next level, all right? You owe it to yourself to be a consistent trader. I really feel strongly that the PTS-XT can help you do that and start out 2021 in the right direction, okay? So take advantage of this great discount. If you can't come up with a one lump sum, don't worry. Pro Trader Strategies would be happy for a small deposit to set up a payment plan with you, and you can still be up and running as early as today. So give them a call, ask them any pricing questions you'd like. There's absolutely no obligation. And as we take one last look at our disclaimer, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your Wednesday once again. I hope you got a little bit of insight into how to take advantage of this simple 4-step process. But most especially, I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine in the new PTS XT Indicator course. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.